Am I live? Geez, I've been having some really weird things going on with this stream. Okay, I see my son. Hello, everyone. I apologize for that. It was doing very strange things, the stream. Oh, I look nice and bright. That's the goal. I've got plenty of lights going on here. How is everyone? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. How are you doing? Is Sunday treating you right? Hello, LA Belanger. Jay Melissa, Anthony Rizzo, Laura Hammond, Sandra Delilah, Debbie Brady, Shapeshifter. Hello, Future Shaper. Hawaii Bound. Thank you. Fred, hello. Sandy Delilah, I've already said hi to you. G. Covington, welcome. Connie Morris, hello. How is everybody? Are you enjoying watching The Fall of the East? Do you think we could have done it differently? Let's get together and talk about it. Could the world have continued on without the East? Could we have made a deal with the East? I guess that's the question you guys can ask yourselves. Could we have made a deal? What does the collapse of the East mean? What happened? Why did Syria collapse? Who was Assad? And why is it necessary to see the collapse of the East? If we're talking about least amount of deaths, could we have continued this Middle Eastern war where both sides were being armed? Both sides were being armed, often by people who claimed they wanted peace. The Muslim Brotherhood was being armed. Hamas was being armed by Egypt. That was part of the peace proposal with Israel in, 1973? So the question is, if people want peace, but do the arms dealers want peace, right? So it got to a point where the powers that be decided that the war had to come to an end, and then the powers that be looked at the math, and the math is the math. And the math is that the East has to go. It's either them or us. And it got to a point where it was going to be us. So a decision was made. And we're seeing that decision playing out right now. We're seeing the dominoes fall. We're seeing Russia fleeing because of a weakened Russia, because of the Ukraine war. So they can't continue to help this guy, right? We can't continue to help this guy if we're Russia. And the dominoes are falling. So my question to you, since you got a heads up, since you knew this was going to happen a year ago, because you have cool friends, could we have done it differently? Who's involved? Who do you think's involved in the collapse of the East? Do you think it's just a bunch of cool people fighting a resistance, or do you think somebody else is involved? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. I'm going to get some water while you ask yourself those questions. Okay, l'chaim, everyone. Here's what I think happened. I think that Hezbollah was weakened. And the reason that Hezbollah was weakened was because they were being attacked in Lebanon by Israel, right? So Hezbollah was being funded by mostly Iran. And the only way you're going to get to peace is you have to take out Iran, right? So Iran's ally, if you're looking at the axis of evil, is Syria and Russia. So if you're going to take out Iran, you've got to be able to if you're going to take out Iran, you've got to be able to isolate Iran. Right? And you've got to be able to separate Iran from Iran's friends. The other thing is that you want to dismantle Putin, because if you're looking at the warmongers who are fighting for territory, if we make a deal with them at the Abraham Accords, it would only make him stronger. And if somebody hates you, you don't arm them. And so the conclusion from the math is that the only solution is that you have to dismantle Russian and Iranian leadership. So what happened was that Hezbollah was being dismantled in Lebanon, and then they were not able to protect Assad, who they were an ally of, because they were a proxy of Iran. And at that point, the rebels were able to make progress in Syria because of the weakening of Hezbollah by Israel. And as a result of that, Syrian rebel forces were able to take Damascus, and Israel created a buffer zone because we were being fired on by Hezbollah in the north. So we're creating a safety buffer zone. All right. So in this crazy thing that's happening, what do you expect next is going to happen? When you put yourself in the shoes of the Muslim Brotherhood and you put yourself in the shoes of these people, what do you think is going to happen? We see instability in the Sinai. We see instability in Egypt. That there could be a powder keg effect all over Europe. So you have to ask yourself, what does the West want? Because on the one hand, the West says they want a two-state solution, but on the other hand, they keep fueling the war. So the Emir of Qatar had a state dinner with King Charles. So what do you think that they're doing? Well, he's a huge lover of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they just kicked Hamas out of Qatar. Is the rebuild happening? Yes, the rebuild is happening. Why is the rebuild happening? The rebuild is happening because people are sick and tired of the war. And because the wealthy want to rebuild, which means that there has to be a new contract. So if you have people buying bombs from Britain that are used to arm the, supposedly who are they going to be arming, right? So it's interesting that they just kicked Hamas out of Qatar, while simultaneously inviting Sheikh Al-Thani to Britain to negotiate good relations with the West when this whole entire thing is going down. And Hamas has just lost their home there. So you think, that's an interesting development. So we take a look at that and we think, that's interesting. And then you wonder about this isolation feeling you get, right? Where who's isolating who and why? And the East is being isolated. The East is being isolated, and Putin is being isolated. And Zelensky and Trump and Macron are meeting in Paris because Zelensky is not part of the conversation. And the fact that Zelensky isn't part of the conversation is a problem for some people.
At Global Poker, size is everything.
37 days left, and we're leading in the polls, so we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully it'll work out.
See, this was him before.
We're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled and get it worked out. It has to end at some point. It has to end. He's gone through hell, and this country has gone through hell like few countries have ever.
After November, we don't know who is on that.
So let me see if I can find the film footage out of Notre Dame. So you can be sure that Putin is not happy, right? Because if they're meeting, it's a signal to NATO. I believe Putin has lost. I believe that Putin knows he's lost. I believe he knows he's being increasingly isolated. His buddy has just fled to Moscow, Assad. And now he's seeing all of these people, all these important people are in Notre Dame for the opening of what? Why are they there? Why was it important to have them all there? And who are these people? And who put them there? Why are they there in Notre Dame? What's the message that they're sending?
A caring man took a walk. He saw people suffering.
You know, what's the message?
Anxiety ran high.
Putin? That's the
Hatred
question
rose.
we should be asking ourselves.
I'll prepare
Why
a feast
would
and bring them together,
Macron
he thought.
and Zelensky
But some refused to join him. He was heartbroken because he wanted everyone to be filled, not with food and wine, but with compassion.
And Elon Musk. Whoops. Sorry about all these commercials.
I think we might have just seen President-elect Trump's +1 arriving. Elon Musk is now, we're told, at Notre Dame. I believe we might have video of him arriving. So there, and there he is. Any thoughts on his appearance there?
Yeah, if you're Marco Rubio, you got to be wondering how much power you're going to have as Secretary of State with Elon Musk always at Trump's elbow and in his ear. But one of the things it does message is that Trump is going to be leading with things like crypto and technology.
So really the takeaway here is a united West and a weakened East. That is how I interpret it. All right, let's open up the floor and let's talk about how you feel about all this. Do you feel that we're sending a message possibly? And if so, what is the message? By the way, I want to give a shout out of gratitude to everyone who's decided to donate money this year to Feeding America Together. We are raising money for for people who are in need during the holidays. We do this every year. So this brings up an important question. Who elected Elon Musk? Why is Elon Musk there? And why did they invite Elon Musk to the opening, the +1, Trump's +1, right? Trump's +1 is going to be Elon Musk because we know that Elon Musk is important. We know that he basically bought the Republican Party and wants to steer it in a different direction. We know that he has defense contracts, and we know that he's going to take care of himself, and that he's got a reputation for being kind of cruel, actually, to his employees. But could we be looking at a CIA operation? Could we be looking at a CIA operation? Is it possible, that there are a lot of people that believe that Epstein was a CIA operative, right? That he was an informant for the FBI and the CIA, right? Is it possible that Elon Musk is a CIA operative? Yeah, the first buddy. So that's the question people want to know is the public persona of Elon Musk as this crazy eccentric billionaire who's a racist, are we looking at maybe a CIA construct the way that Epstein was a CIA construct? That's, Epstein, the disgraced financier who never had any financial clients, so he was never a financier, right? He was a CIA construct. We don't know who he was. We have some ideas of who he was, but many people think he was a CIA construct. So people wonder, is Elon Musk partially a CIA construct who goes in and then has all this power? And if so, does that mean that the CIA basically comes in and takes over, or has deep roots in the Republican Party? That the CIA basically went in and is now dismantling the East. Is he a double agent? Is he a CIA operative? Is he just your garden variety creep? If he's your garden variety creep, that's a great but it would also explain why they don't pull his security and stuff if he himself has ties to. We know he has high security clearance, so it would be interesting if we were looking at somebody who was also on the books with intelligence agencies, which is something that a lot of people have considered. Yeah. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and do the empath prayer, and then we'll give you all a collective reading. Does that sound good? Thank you, Anonymous, for that generous donation to Feeding America Together, feedingamerica.org for the holidays. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the empath's prayer and the collective. If you would like to get a collective reading from me. And happy holidays to each and every one. Anybody planning anything special for Christmas or Hanukkah? They both fall on the same day this year, December 25th, which is kind of nice. It would be nice if, are you going to have a merry little Christmas? Are you going to have a tiny little Christmas? Have yourselves A Merry Little Christmas. You guys know that song? I love that song. I should work on that one. Na 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 na. Such a pretty song. All right. All right, let's do it. And if you have anyone you love and care about that you would like us to pray for, please give us their name so that we can include them in the empath prayer as we ring in the empath prayer and healing to everyone who is requesting healing at this time. Yes, good times. A good time was had by all. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. And for those of you who are seeking a healing at this time, we pray that you receive a perfect healing, both for you and for those you loved. Love in mind, body, and spirit. To receive a perfect healing. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. All right, let's do it. What is your message? The message for well, let's blitz away and let's see what your message from Spirit is. All right, what you need to know as a collective in the coming weeks. What is the message from Spirit? Thank you for being here. If you have a chance to subscribe, that would be awesome, and like the stream. We're on a goal to get to 100,000. I believe it's going to happen. We're almost at 70,000. We're almost there, folks. Where you are at right now at this time, the base of the issue for you is the things that you have had to resolve from the past. So, how much time do you spend thinking about the past? And does the time you spend thinking about the past in any way take time away from what you could be doing in the present and the future? So the base of the matter is the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Swords has the ability to put the past behind her and to move on. And your karma card is Two of Cups, which is a willingness to be out there and to develop new contracts, new relationships, and possibly new romantic interest if you want them. As we get older, we sometimes think, I'm not interested. I'm okay being alone. Two of Cups is a card that has to do with healing. It can be romantic. It certainly has a social and sacred aspect to it. And it could indicate a potential new contract or new relationship with somebody. And where you're at this time, the first house is you're entering into a time that's unbelievably creative. This could be a time when you're finally writing that great novel or finally figuring out the violin. I'm finally figuring out vibrato. It's tough to get vibrato. You know, you got to go spaghetti, apple spaghetti, right? Is that it? You got to, I don't know. There's a shape to get a vibrato. The point is this. Your first house is the Empress, and Empress could indicate a time in your life that's unbelievably creative and positive. So ideas are coming to you. You may be channeling ideas that you've never experienced before. And I also think that you have a great opportunity for a side hustle, a little bit of money coming in from sources that you had not anticipated that can go into your legacy or your retirement. So that's also quite auspicious to get a 10 of Pentacles, because 10 of Pentacles would indicate your family inheritance is going to be okay. What is above you? I see many of you traveling for the holidays. Be safe out there because, you know, it gets kind of rainy, snowy, all of that. But Chariot moving into the 4th position would indicate that some of you are thinking of a little bit of travel going on there. And what you're sitting in, many of you have gone through profound spiritual and emotional changes over the last couple of years. And what you're coming out of, a feeling of confinement. Perhaps many of you feel like after COVID, everybody just crawled into their own prisons, and maybe you're feeling almost claustrophobic, like agoraphobic. You were hiding out a little bit, and now you're entering into a time that's now you need to come out a little bit, out into the world, out into nature a little bit, because you've got that Chariot card moving in and 4 of Wands, which is to build something new. So you're being pressed to come out of your home, to come out into the world, to be more creative and to be more social. And where you're at right now, just very the King of Hearts, great cards. Time to love again, time to communicate, time to reach out to others. No one's perfect. The question is, can you tolerate the other person's imperfections? The hopes and fears, love. Many of you still want love, which is a worthy thing to pursue. And the Fool card comes out. Many of you have new partners coming, new relationships are coming. Many of you are going to fall hopelessly in love. Yes, I say that because the Fool card takes a leap of faith, and because you've got a Karma card of a 2 of Cups. So it could indicate that if you want to find somebody new, it could be happening for you. Be logical. Falling in love when we're older is not the same as when we were young, because we don't entirely lose our heads the way we once did. You know, we can be a little bit more mature about it. Many of you who are pursuing creative dreams or side hustles, you'll be very successful in the coming 6 months. Just stay focused on it. But I'm seeing, for those of you who are concerned about your financial situations, all will be well. All will be well. These are scary times, but you needn't be afraid so long as you are taking care of your business. I do not see the entire world collapsing the way the East is collapsing, and the East is going to be forced into a new deal with the West, but there's no indication in the cards that everything is coming to an end and that everybody's going to be out of job next week. And I just, it's not as simple as, you can't just go and replace everybody. The FDA is coming in. You can't just say, well, your new doctor is going to be a robot. Well, the FDA may have something to say about that, right? These are concepts and ideas that could take decades before they get approved by certain agencies and stuff. So I don't see, I don't know why, but I don't see a loss of employment. I see plenty of jobs, and I don't see this major devastation that everybody's talking about. None of us is happy with who the president, I shouldn't say that. Many of us are not happy with who the incoming president is, but I think that we have such a strong Congress, and because the courts, we've done so much at the court level, and we've really gone above and beyond for protecting Ukraine. It would be very difficult to screw up the next couple of years. Biggest concern is the Supreme Court, but the direction of Democrats now is amendments. How can we begin to push forward with amendments in those states where we may not have, where we need amendments, and take advantage of new courts, etc. So I don't see it being quite as spooky. In fact, quite the opposite. We're entering into a period in the United States, which is green economy, new green contracts, which were brought in by Biden, that start to open up between now and 2030. And I think that probably Trump will want to take credit for it. If they're building bridges and roads and infrastructure and it's all happening under Trump, he can say, look at all this great stuff that's happening for me between now and 2030. But it's all part of the Biden rebuild package. So that's what I see. All right, let's go ahead. When I get the order, we will blitz away. And then whatever questions you folks have for me, I'll be happy to answer them. Please check out our charity this week. We are raising money for feedingamerica.org. If you would like to support that charity, we would be very grateful. I also want to give a shout out to Richmond Burton. He is the author of the book that we are reading for the Book of the Month Club. It's called Rolodex by Richmond Burton. And we will be reading it for the holidays if you want to get together and read it with us. Also, if you have written a book and you feel like it would be a nice read for Taco Tuesdays, you can send it to me at Whimsy Anderson, care of 1819 Southwest 5th Avenue, Suite 116, Portland, Oregon, 97201. And you may appear at Taco Tuesdays. We hope you'll join us. All right, let's get on to some blitzes here. Let's figure out what questions you folks have. Hi, Geocosmic. Good to see you here. Geocosmic, an astrologer and a remote viewer extraordinaire. We got Austin in the house. Tell us what you're eating, what you're drinking, where you're coming from. Tell us who you are. Welcome to our table. So what now with Netanyahu? It's disturbing because they're trying to starve Hamas out of their holes. Right? He's trying to starve Hamas out. What's the problem? Who's starving? The children are starving, right? And so he got accused of genocide by the Amnesty International, right? Because he's trying to starve the terrorist out. But who's starving? The babies are starving. Who's going to die first? The children, right? So there has to be another way to get to Hamas without having children starving, right? This is not how we win a war. We don't become monsters. We don't want to become monsters in the process, right? So then Amnesty International said it, and then Amnesty International in Jerusalem said it's not true. So Amnesty is, the point is that people are suffering in war, and he's trying to get Hamas, and then the kids are starving. So that's not good. So let's see about the future of Netanyahu. I don't think Netanyahu is capable of what has to be done in Israel because he's just too screwed up. He's also under criminal investigation for multiple things. Chariot movement. You know, they lost the war. They should not have attacked Israel. So Iran has lost. Completely confused. Iran did not realize they were this weak. Iran did not realize they were this weak. There's real confusion from Iran. A judgment. The star. The question is, will we get to ceasefire with Hamas? Will we get to ceasefire with Hamas? Because Hamas surely can see that Hezbollah is finished. Hezbollah is fleeing Syria because they can no longer hold Syria. So then the question we have to ask ourselves is, does is Hamas finished, and will we get to peace? He will fulfill what it is he's supposed to fulfill, but he's increasingly constricted. Netanyahu is under criminal investigation for a bunch of stuff. Just like Trump, he was under criminal investigation for a bunch of stuff, and then he still got elected. So a very similar timeline and very similar to what's going on with Trump. Let me just throw a card to see what the card is over Netanyahu. Water Guardian, interesting. Could be an indication that their boats could be attacked. And also Broken Arrow is auspicious. It could be that the war is coming to an end, but they have to watch. That could be because Houthi rebels are attacking boats. So he needs to check the waters. Broken Arrow would be is a sign that the war ends. So we could be getting to ceasefire relatively soon because of how the dominoes are falling. If you look at how the dominoes are supposed to fall, with Putin is supposed to be isolated, and then Iranian leadership is dismantled, which would be Hezbollah, Assad, Iran isolated. And then at that point, when they've been toppled, you still don't want to do a deal with the Abraham Accords because you don't want to build them up until they have change of leadership that's going to be less hostile to the West. So if you're looking at just how the dominoes are falling, you would assume that we're probably going to get to ceasefire fairly soon with Hamas because they can see the writing on the wall. And then at that point, all of the you should see all these dominoes falling. We're already starting to see the dominoes falling with Iran and Russia becoming increasingly isolated. Any questions about that? Or it's cool, right? Okay. Strange world we live in. Yeah, it's a strange world we live in, and we hope it ends well, right? Saudi is part of the Abraham Accords. So then the question becomes, could we have done a deal like this under the Democrats? No. Did we have to have the Republicans come in and CIA operatives, and who the heck knows if Elon is with intelligence, if he's just some freaking construct, and then they go in and they dismantled the East. It would be the perfect thing to do, particularly if you thought that it would be to play the game, particularly if you think that the Republican Party has been taken over by Russia. You just bring in a double agent to take over the thing that's been taken over. And then the next thing you know, the Republican Party, instead of going with Putin, they completely sever with Putin, get together with Zelensky. You bastard, you went with the CIA. Is that what we're talking about? Is that what happened? Did Daddy CIA come in? What do you guys think? What is going on? Why make a deal with Russia? Why make a deal with Russia when Russia's already collapsed? Russia's already collapsed. Why give them anything? Right? So if Russia has already collapsed, and the purpose is to try and get a kumbaya and to try and strengthen the West, then you got to ask yourself some important questions. Who's in charge of who? Who are these people? Who put them there? Why is the royal family meeting with the Emir of Qatar after they just kicked out Hamas? What's that about? What's that about? Why? You see? Why? Why? Why are these people there? That's the disturbing question. Who is this guy? Are you sure you know who this guy is? So we have an eccentric billionaire with high security clearance, possibly a double agent working for American intelligence, possibly CIA, FBI as a double agent, who goes in and basically takes over the Republican Party by putting on the facade that he's a part of it, when the truth of the matter is the Republican Party has basically been taken over by CIA operatives in order to steer them in the right direction. Is that what we're talking about? And so they used a double agent? If you were Putin, would you be pissed? Would you feel like you'd been bamboozled? Bamboozled. This is not working the way you thought it was going to work, right? So what's happening with Putin right now, right? So what's Putin doing? Putin is pissed, right? So what's he doing? He's putting up pictures of naked Melania on Soviet television, right? Because something's going down. And what it's starting to look like is, is the CIA in the middle of this whole thing? Is this whole entire thing a CIA coup? Did we just experience a coup by our own government to take over the Republican Party? Is that why all those Democrats are crawling around the new Republican Party? That's another thing I can't figure out. How come all these Democrats are running around the new Republican Party? Are these people double agents? Are they CIA operatives? Because I'm beginning to feel like these folks might be working for us. You got to admit, if that's the case and we're dealing with double agents, if all these people are secretly double agents, or some of them are double agents, then that's a very patriotic thing to do, to have us hate your guts for a couple of years while this was going down. But Yeah, so where are we at? Again, a ceasefire is likely with Hamas. And then they will be given a chance to go to a host country. Turkey's willing to take some of them, Algeria. They will start a rebuild. The argument is that they had to do it under the Republicans. The Democrats would not have approved this. They would have been fighting the perfection, the enemy of the good, right? That while that's going on, we see an increasingly isolated Putin. There will be no deal with Putin. You cannot make a deal with him because he just invaded a sovereign country. So the purpose would be to completely isolate him and then eventually possibly to try him internationally or to keep him under house arrest where he's at. And then the dismantling of Iranian leadership would mean also the dismantling of any of their armies or any support that they would be getting from outside sources, which would include Russia, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, or the Houthis, so that we would be seeing an increasingly isolated, weakened Iran. And so this is what we can expect to see in the coming weeks. So then the question you have to ask yourself is, of all the people you hate right now that are in the Republican Party, which one of them are double agents for the U.S. intelligence? Because I believe there are several. I believe there are several that are probably CIA and FBI informants. Okay, because a lot of people wanted the Abraham Accords because there's a lot of money to be made off the Abraham Accords, which means that you have to be able to soften people. You have to be able to soften the emir of Qatar and get him on your side and get him to agree with you and flirt with him and have him at a state dinner. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they can pull this off, because warmongers made a lot of money off of selling arms to anybody and everybody in the Middle East. Two, well, erratic and delusional. How do you know that erratic and delusional isn't part of the character he's developed? People thought that Jeffrey Epstein was erratic with strange paintings of Clinton in a dress and all that other weird stuff on the wall, but it was just a CIA construct, probably. Right? So we don't know. But the purpose is to think about these things because the East is falling. And how did, we can try and figure out how are they going to pull it off, right? We can try and think of, well, how are they going to pull this off? Because we know what's coming because we've done the math, right? So we can just sit back and say, well, how are they going to isolate Putin, or how are they going to isolate and take down Iran? So what we're witnessing is that process. And it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Oh, according to this, Broken Arrow is when the peacemaker. All right, let's take a look at Joe Biden. Is there nothing they can do to stop Trump and Musk right now? Well, maybe they don't want to stop them. If they're CIA and they're going in and it's a plant and Musk is a plant, then would you stop them? No, you'd be like, have fun with the rebuild of Gaza. Right? It's like, well, you folks know what you're doing. You're all CIA operatives. Have fun with that. You're controlling Trump. He's already, he's meeting with Zelensky and Macron. Well, if I were Putin, I'd be very upset. Right? That would explain why Elon Musk paid off his debts, which is what it looks like. It almost looks like Putin owned Trump and then Elon Musk came and bought him off the guy. It has that kind of a feel. Biden's future, the economy, the green economy. So he's making sure that a lot of the new new green economy is starting to happen, which is quite auspicious. If you look at Seven of Pentacles, it's harvesting the green, it's retirement, it's getting back what you put in. But I always think of it also as a green card because the more we love the planet, the more the resources, the opposition strong. So people there was a kind of a mandate, right? The opposition. He's concerned about fighting fighting after he's gone. And then the final outcome, Ace of Cups, would indicate that they are going to get to peace. So if peace is what people wanted, if they wanted an end to what was going on in Gaza, and if they wanted to get to peace and to the rebuild, which is very much the focus of Elon Musk, he wants that rebuild. Then if that's what you wanted, that's what you're going to get. Armistice. Yeah. The focus is all on Gaza next year. I really believe that. I think everyone's going to be excited everyone's going to want to put their 2 cents into the rebuild. I want a peace, I want a peace, I want to contribute, I want to contribute. And that's good. You want to have people excited about peace and the rebuild. But I think that's going to be a big focus after Biden leaves, is the rebuild of Gaza and peace in Gaza. Yeah, Trump, I can check his cards. He's been an informant in the past. But this almost felt like U.S. intelligence went in and is negotiating the dismantling of the East. And they're denying that Elon Musk was meeting with Iranian officials a week before all this crazy started to happen. And then they said, yes, he did. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Devil. I feel this increasing weakness with Trump, maybe because he's getting older and cannot control for everything that's going on in his life. It's interesting to see this kind of energy. Devil card could be that he's in alliances he cannot get out of. Knight of Cups would be an offer, an emissary of peace. Hopes and Fears, 6 of Cups again would be an offer of peace. And then Queen of Swords would be to put the past behind. But this addictive kind of nature over Trump, poverty and addiction, it doesn't matter how rich you are when you're born. I think that's the takeaway from the Trump story. Is it doesn't matter how rich you are. If you are a drug addict, you will wind up broke, because drug addiction is so destructive. And because Trump had a history of prescription drug addiction and other addictions, other mental health problems, it expressed itself in how he handles his money. He doesn't handle his money like a sane, rational person. He handles his money like somebody who has a real hard time taking control over his money. His mental, you can see his instability by his inability to handle his money. Is Elon Musk blackmailing Trump? I don't think so, no. No, but I do think he bailed him out of his financial problems. He bought the Republican Party. He put $250,000 in, and that's just what we know about. He also paid for fake super PACs like RBG Super PAC. Yeah, they're bound. He blackmail or something where he can't get out of Elon Musk. You can see the devil. It almost looks like buying a slave from another slaveholder. The interesting thing, territorial. It's as if these people were involved in slavery and human trafficking, and then Trump himself winds up bought. You know, because his debts get paid off by a businessman. So, yes, I don't think even if he wanted to get away from Trump, he would be able to get away from Trump, given his relationship with Elon Musk. God, I can't even imagine living my life like this. Aren't you glad you're keeping your lives simple? I mean, geez, Louise, who wants to live I don't want a life like this. When we talk about mastery, we talk about mastery in your own career, like me being a really good naturopathic doctor. I want to keep my clients safe and healthy, being the best remote viewer I can be, helping you feel the most empowered, right? We want to be the best we can be at our jobs, even if you're just a simple barefoot doctor like me, right? But at the same time, the difference between people like you and me is that we don't want to lose our we don't want to lose our core ethics in the process just because we want to be successful. And I think what we see with extremely successful people like with Elon Musk is that they may not have the same moral compass that you and I have. And maybe it costs us financially. I suppose it does, right? Yeah, maybe a little bit. All right, let's do one more question, and then I guess we'll call it a day. We've been together here for almost an hour. All right, so what do you guys think about the murder of the CEO of UHC? It looks like every single photograph of every single guy looks entirely different. Like now they've got a Latino guy in a taxi. I mean, like, these guys don't even look like they're the same. Are they getting the pictures of the same person? I felt like he might have been associated with a hacker group like Anonymous, that he was part of like an anarchist group, and that some of the anarchist groups are becoming more violent out of Atlanta, that they had begun car bombings, and that now they could be escalating to targeted assassinations. And so you have anonymous anarchist groups, militant anarchist groups, like some of what we saw on college campuses in Portland when they disruptors, right? These aggressive left of center, like I'm not talking about normal left, right? I'm talking about these tear it all down, and like the SLA that kidnapped Patty Hearst, where there might be guns used or something like that. So it has this feeling that these left, center militant groups have taken to targeted assassinations, and that he is associated with a hacker group. And there's 2 women associated with him also. So they may have tracked and hacked and then carried out an assassination. Let me see what else I can find out about the hacker. I mean, the assassin. There's no organized Antifa, but there are people that call themselves Antifa. Antifa is real. It's just that there's no network. It's people working in small groups that are attacking and beating up, and in some cases killing fascists. So we also have activities like that in some states like Atlanta, Portland, Oregon. All right, let's take a look. He definitely did his homework. So this individual, he did his homework. He researched it. He researched the opposition. So they view it as the hunter and the hunted. These groups, it's associated with groups, associated with an attitude. So, as one person had said, the serial killer has been assassinated. So many people feel that the insurance companies have become serial killers. So you have this kind of, the opposition is defensive or trying to defend themselves. I'm going to go ahead and predict that we're going to have Senate hearings about what insurance companies are doing. And I think that it's going to blow up in the Senate, and it's going to lead to major changes as a result of this. This is going to lead to a huge expose in the Senate and a series of Senate hearings and reforming of insurance companies as a result of this. But they're all going before the Senate to answer really tough questions as a result of this. The people rejoiced. Good things will come from this, because in the end, it will get people to look at this. He took the weapons of war away from his enemy, the assassin. Keep seeing him getting on a boat. You know, he looks like he's leaving, and then he gets on a boat and then goes out in the middle of the ocean or someplace like that. I just see something. I keep having a vision of him possibly going onto a boat or something like that. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard is another one that people have suspected might be a CIA operative. So what people say and what secretly go, we don't even know. Tucker Carlson, maybe another one. We have no idea if it's a deep fake or what it is. The person that you want to strangle, and then you find out it's a deep fake or whatever. I have no idea. I know that none of this seems normal. And it's as if they want peace in the Middle East, some Democrats, that they have joined the Republican Party, like Tulsi. This is why Tulsi joined. And they want that rebuild of Gaza. And so it's almost as if, for that reason, the Democrats are like, well, you get it started, and then in 4 years we'll come back and we'll fight you again. It's almost like, well, we would never be able to do this under the Democrats. So you go ahead and you do the rebuild, and we'll see you in 4 years. It has that kind of an aspect. Like, why aren't you people fighting more? Because we want the rebuild. But if we did it, we'd get criticized. So we're going to go ahead and let them do the rebuild. I swear that's what this looks like. It almost looks like the Democrats couldn't have gotten away with the rebuild. And you look at the softening of the guy out of Qatar by the British royal family. It's like, what is going on? This cannot be a coincidence. A week after you kick Hamas out. So it's very obvious that the international community wants the rebuild of Gaza. They want the Abraham Accords to happen. And maybe they felt that it couldn't happen under the Democrats, that it had to happen under the Republicans. All right, my loves. Everything's going to be okay, though. I really believe that. We will find a way, and we need an amendment. And once women have the amendment, then it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court can have any opinion they like. But what ultimately has to happen is that we need an ERA. All right. Thank you, my loves. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can find all that information below this video. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.